Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Executive of Allerdale Borough Council. My name is Gail Roach, I'm the Democratic Services Manager, and for the purposes of today's meeting I am also the host. I will be assisting the committee with the use of technology and to manage the process of the meeting. I will not have any control over the meeting and the meeting will not formally start until instructed by the Chair. This meeting is currently being live streamed via YouTube and the recording will be made available on the Council's website. Everyone who has indicated that they are attending have now joined and the meeting is now locked. Shortly I will hand you over to the Chair, but firstly we'll start with the introductions. Can I ask that all the attendees introduce themselves, starting with the members, please? Councillor Cook.
Councillor John Cook.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Councillor Fitzgerald, a portfolio holder for Policy, Governance and People's Resources.
Councillor Johnson.
Good afternoon, Councillor Mike Johnson, Deputy Leader of the Council.
Councillor Lister.
Good afternoon, Councillor Jim Lister.
Councillor Pitcher.
Good afternoon, Councillor Pitcher, portfolio holder for Customer Experience and Innovation.
Thank you. And now the officers. Andrew Seekins.
Andrew Seekins, Chief Executive Officer.
Sharon Sewell.
Good afternoon, Sharon Sewell, Head of Governance and Monitoring Officer.
Paul Wood.
Good afternoon, Paul Wood, Head of Customer Operations.
Catherine Nicholson.
Good afternoon, Catherine Nicholson, Head of Financial Services and Section 151 Officer.
Kevin Kerrigan.
Good afternoon, Kevin Kerrigan, Programme Director for Workington.
And Brendan Carlin.
Good afternoon, I'm Brendan Carlin, I'm the Head of the Programme Office.
Thank you. We also have officers from the IT and the Communications Office online assisting us with the meeting today. So thank you for your introductions. Please can participants remain on mute throughout the meeting unless you are indicating you wish to speak. To speak, please can members use the raise hand icon and only speak when instructed to by the Chair. Once you've finished speaking, please can you remember to lower your hand. I will now hand you over to the Chair to formally start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Executive meeting today, Wednesday, the 2nd of September 2020. As previously stated, my name is Councillor Mike Johnson and I am Chair of the Executive. You have been introduced to the members and officers in attendance today. Moving on to the agenda. We have an additional report to be considered today, which can be found on the published supplement pack as agenda item 11. Entitled Update on Financial Impact of COVID-19. Members, I intend to take this as the first item of business before agenda item 6 on your main agenda pack. So item 1, minutes. To agree as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of July 2020. For the purpose of this virtual meeting, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the minutes unless they raise their hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. Can members please indicate now? There are no indications, so thank you, the minutes are approved. Item 2, apologies for absence. Gail, do we have any apologies, please?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Tony Markley.
Thank you. Item 3, declaration of interests. Please use the raise hand function to indicate if you wish to make a declaration. If it becomes apparent during consideration of any of the items that you may have an interest in, please declare it at that point. There are no declarations of interest. Item 4, questions. Do we have any questions, please, Gail?
No, no questions have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, members' announcements. Do any of the executive members have any announcements? Please use the raise hand function to indicate. There are no members' announcements. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 11, which is now the update on financial impact of COVID-19. Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an update on the current estimated financial impact of COVID-19, building on the June report to the Executive. It sets out the forecast impact of COVID-19 as submitted to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and considers the impact on the planning work to build the 2021 to 22 budget and medium-term financial strategy. Since the report to Executive in June, the Government has announced a funding package that included a further £500 million of unring-fenced funding to respond to funding pressures, of which our share is £180,240. Changes so that local authorities can spread their tax deficits over 3 years rather than the usual one, and a new scheme to reimburse councils for lost income from sales, fees and charges. The income loss scheme will be in place for 1 year only, i.e. 2020 to 21. The council will have to absorb losses of up to 5% of planned sales, fees and charges, with the government compensating us for 75 pence in every £1 of relevant loss thereafter. The finance team are currently working with the guidance from MHCLG and will provide an update on the estimated financial implications of this in the October exec report. Table 1 in this item gives a breakdown of the government funding that has been announced to date. Since the last report, we've received an additional £180,240 COVID funding and a further £170,000 new burdens grant to support the work on administrating the business grant scheme. Table 2 sets out the additional expenditure and foregone savings. Table 3 sets out the anticipated lost or reduced income prior to the impact of the recently announced income loss scheme. This pandemic is expected to have a significant financial impact on the council in the short, medium and long term. The crisis is impacting some key income streams and will also severely hinder the delivery of the 20 to 21 savings programme as it was originally approved. The current medium-term financial strategy is being reviewed in detail to assess which of the assumptions made for 2021 and beyond will need to be amended in light of COVID-19 and the associated government announcement about the postponement of the expected spending review and reform to the business rate system. So it's important that we address the ongoing financial sustainability and understand the level of reserves available to the council. Should the assumed COVID-19 additional grant support from government fall short of the financial impact being forecast, this will lead to a greater level of financial pressure to be addressed in the preparation of a balanced 2021 to 22 budget and medium-term plan. Although we are faced with uncertainty and challenging times ahead, it is important that we learn from this crisis and the ways we have had to adapt and continue to find new ways of delivery of our services in the future. So I'd like to recommend that the report be noted as on page 3 of the report, and that members review the position on a monthly basis and give delegated authority for the Section 151 officer to release additional sums from general fund balances to address the budget position. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Do we have a seconder for this report?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim. I would just like to thank the officers for this report. The pandemic is a truly exceptional situation. The seriousness of the financial impact on the organisation is becoming clearer, but there are still some challenges around the future planning. In our council strategy, we recognise that the challenge of creating a financially secure council would not be a quick fix, but our long-term ambition remains unaltered. This is certainly one of the benefits of moving from a 4-year document to a 10-year document. As I have said in previous meetings, we are grateful to the government for the funding we've received. It goes some way to mitigate the financial pressures, but I will continue to work with colleagues in other districts to ensure government is fully informed of the full impact on councils such as ours. So for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion, unless I use the raised hand function to indicate they wish to speak. Please indicate now. There's no indication, so thank you. The motion is approved. Item 6, Q1 performance report, 2020-2021. Councillor Fitzgerald again, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is the Q1 performance report for 2020 to 21, covering the quarter to the 30th of June 2020. The report is based on key projects and activities and key performance indicators set out in the Interim Delivery Plan 2020 to 21. The Interim Delivery Plan that we agreed in June sets out how the Council will deliver against the 6 priority themes in the Council strategy over the coming year. Overall, the report at Appendix A, which is pages 15 to 35 in the agenda, show that despite the current challenging times, progress on activities has been good, with 33 of the 39 key actions being green, 5 amber and 1 red. 17 of the 27 indicators attributed a red, amber, green rating were green, which means on target, 5 were amber, which is close to target, and 2 were red, which means off target. Pages 15 and 16 of the report give an overview of the performance. Pages 17 to 35 give fuller details and a commentary for each project and activity and performance indicator set out under the 6 themes of the Council strategy. In terms of projects and activities, of the 39 projects set out in the Interim Delivery Plan, 82% are green and on track, 15% are amber, and 3% are on red. The majority of projects and activities set out in the Interim Delivery Plan are on track, with notable achievements including the significant work of teams across the organisation to keep day-to-day services running, as well as undertaking considerable additional work relating to the pandemic situation, such as paying out over 3,000 grants to businesses, undertaking advisory and enforcement work around business closures, advising and supporting businesses in our town centres to reopen, working with the County Council to support community groups, develop the local test and trace system, and temporarily redesign our town centres for safety. Alongside this, key projects such as the major regeneration schemes in Maryport and Workington have moved forward during this time. 6 projects or activities have seen some delays or issues with details given in the report, including the delivery of the hardship fund, as there have been some delays and issues with the necessary upgrade to our revenues and benefits system, which is now being tested before awards can be made. Delivery of the Arcus project is flagged as red after suffering delays over recent months as a consequence of technical and resource issues. Discussions are ongoing to agree realistic timescales for delivery of the final phases, which are environmental protection and food licensing, as well as housing enforcement. In terms of key performance indicators, there are 27 performance indicators attributed a red, amber, green rating, of which 63% were green, which is on or better than target, 19% were amber, which is close to target, and 7% were red, which is off target. At 103 valid missed bins per 100,000, this indicator is rated as red. This does, however, represent a 99.9% success rate over Q1 for bin collection. This was despite the startup of a new service and the pandemic situation, which presented some significant challenges to collection rounds. The figure for June was an improvement on May, and the team are working closely with Allerdale Waste Services to get this down lower over the coming months, recognising that improvement is needed. The figure for Q1 for the percentage of council spend, less than £50,000, on goods and services with local Cumbrian suppliers is at 43.96%, which is 6% short of the new target and 2% down on Q1 2019. Lower value spend, under 50k, has been influenced by goods for COVID-19 response, such as PPE, which has had to be sourced from a wide area due to the high levels of demand. However, looking at total spend of all values, 62.33% was to local suppliers during Q1 2020. The procurement team continued to work with teams and suppliers to encourage local spend. Of the 7 indicators with no fixed target figures that reported in Q1, 3 showed a static or improving trend, including numbers of complaints. Those with a worsening trend included incidents of fly tipping, where we have seen a significant increase in incidents. Details of the action being taken to address this issue are given on page 19 of the report. So I'd like to move the report. Members are asked to note the information contained therein with a view to seeking continuous improvement in performance. And in doing so, I would just like to add that I think it's been a remarkable achievement during the pandemic that our services have been kept running as normally as possible while having to deal with all the additional pressures of the pandemic. And the fact that much of this work has been done by officers and members working from home with the assistance of our IT department, I really think has been something to be proud of. And I think that Council should be justly proud of what's been achieved during this time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Marion. Have we got a seconder, please?
I'll second that. And I would also like to back up Marion's words on how well the council has performed over this period of time. I do think, like she says, it's quite remarkable. So I'll second that quite happily. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I think it's a real credit to the staff that we've been able to maintain such a high level of performance at a time when the organisation has been so stretched in responding to the COVID-19. To keep so many of the indicators at our target levels, in addition to the delivery of the new services, such as administration of the business grants and the track and trace, is something that I hope everyone is very proud of. I believe that we are striking the right balance between delivering what is needed now and putting in place building blocks for the future. We are making good progress on our regeneration priorities, while still making sure that we hit our targets for the services such as planning. It's also interesting to note that we have high expectations of ourselves. Our indicator for missed bins is shown as red, but we get it right 99.9% of the time. I really think that this demonstrates our commitment to providing outstanding local services. So for the vote, I will assume that members are in agreement with the motion unless they use the raised hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. Thank you. There were no indications, so the motion is approved. Moving on to item 7, Regulation of Investigation Powers Act 2000, RIPA, review of the RIPA policy and guidance. Again, Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000 provides the framework under which the Council is able to carry out surveillance activities and to access communications data which would otherwise not be legal because of the impact on human rights. The Council regularly reviews the policy and guidance to ensure that the Council complies with the legal obligations under RIPA and national guidance, and that the RIPA policy and guidance remains up to date and reflects legislative change, revised codes of practice, and the recommendations from the Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office. The Council has a comprehensive and well-structured RIPA policy, which was last updated in February 2019. The policy is reviewed annually and will benefit from a number of minor improvements to ensure compliance with the relevant legislation and guidance. These changes are outlined in the report before you today. Training and guidance is key, and a comprehensive training plan is in place for relevant officers, and officers will be producing some material to assist members with a general awareness of this matter. So I'd therefore like to move that the recommendation on page 37 of your agenda, that the RIPA policy and guidance at Appendix 1 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion, and I'll second that motion. Thank you. So again, for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. The motion is approved. Moving on to item 8, local government reorganisation and devolution. So I will move this, this motion. So potential local government reorganisation has been discussed over many years in Cumbria. This paper summarises the current position in relation to Allerdale Borough Council and puts in place the necessary decision and delegations to enable discussions to move forward. In my capacity as Deputy Leader of the Council, I was delighted to put my name to a letter alongside the leader of Carlisle City Council and the Mayor of Copeland, asking the Secretary of State to invite proposals for local government reorganisation in Cumbria. I believe that this is right and proper that we look at options at improving democratic accountability and service delivery for the residents of Allerdale and Cumbria, and this could be the creation of a unitary council in Cumbria. When coupled with potential devolution deal from government, then Cumbria could truly transform local service delivery alongside the local economy. I would like to move recommendations A to F on page 85. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor John Cook. For the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. There's no indication, so the motion is approved. Item 9, approval of overview and scrutiny committee and the executive protocol. Again, Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier this year, members of the executive and members of the overview and scrutiny committee were able to comment informally on an early draft of the protocol before us today. I know that overview and scrutiny panel have been working very hard on this for some time, and they've put before us a very good piece of work, because an effective relationship between the executive and scrutiny is vital for any council which is looking to improve. I think that we've taken huge steps forward in improving this relationship over the past year, and this protocol takes that improvement further by specifying how that relationship will continue to work in the future. Scrutiny has a key role to play in the future of this council, and especially ensuring that we as executive members have an effective challenge mechanism in place to ensure that our decisions are the best that they can be. So I'm looking forward to working with scrutiny over the coming years. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee gave its approval to this protocol at its June meeting, and it's now for the executive to give its approval to the protocol, after which it will become operational. So I therefore move that the executive approves the adoption of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and executive protocol. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Do we have a seconder, please?
Yep, I'll second that.
Thank you, Alan. I'm really pleased to be able to support this excellent piece of work. We've worked hard to build a good relationship with the Scrutiny Committee, a relationship that is so important to the success of the council. We have a number of key documents in development, such as the new economic strategy, and Scrutiny will have an important role to play in ensuring that we get these documents right. It feels like the right time to be setting out how we will build on the positives from the past year to ensure that the executive and scrutiny work well together. The years to come as we look forward to our council strategy. So again, if the vote, I will assume that members are in agreement with the motion unless they use the raised hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. There is no indication, so the motion is approved. Item 10, Finance System Replacement Award of Contract. Due to further information required on this report, I'm moving that this item be withdrawn from the meeting and the item will be reported to a future meeting of the executive. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. For the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. There are no indications, so the motion is approved. That's the end of the agenda items. Thank you for your attendance. The next virtual meeting of the executive will be 4 p.m. on Wednesday, 14th of October, 2020. I now close this meeting. Thank you.
This is